right, guys, good morning. Good morning. Welcome aboard to the Morning Note. My name is Carlos Garcia, founder and CEO of Guard Capital. It is Thursday. The week's moving quickly. November 2nd, 2023, new month, almost to the tail end of the week. Imagine that. Good morning, everybody. I'm pretty sure if you're opening your terminals, you're opening your phone, and you're seeing futures, yes, it is bright green. Nothing like price to change sentiment, am I right? Just last week, the world's ending, extreme fear. Now with S&P at 42.96, pretty much the same level that we were, if we want to get the date correct, we are at the same place we were on the 19th of October. So there you go. Exciting stuff. But again, always nice to see green. Good morning, everybody. 235. That's how much we're up on the Dow. The NASDAQ is up 200 points this morning. S&P up 0.95%, right at the 20-day moving average. Russell, 1700, up 1.41%. That's what we want to see. We want to see the Russell gain. We want to see a broadening of a rally. We don't just want tech only. We don't want the same Microsofts, the same Amazons, which I have calls, Nvidias of the world. We don't want just Apple, even though they report today after the bell. We need to broaden out this rally. If not, we just don't want it to be a short squeeze where we get reversed on, which has happened. 4.628% on a 10-year. Boy, 5% feels like a long time ago, doesn't it? And we did not get to 5%, mind you. On TNX, you could see the top of that point. This is the 10-year Treasury yield, 4.997. I still believe 5% is that peak. Again, we're getting a short covering, possibly, in terms of bonds, or we're finally getting some price discovery where institutions, possibly individuals, want to lock in a 5% rate, thinking that that's the top. Since yesterday, there was no hike as expected. Fed Chair Powell did speak. In my opinion, he sounded rather hawkish. The market did not give a crap because the assumption is that's it. It's over. No more rate hikes. We still have December looming. So listen, all fairness, I thought we were going to pause back in March. But that did not happen, obviously. So we had a couple months down the line. But to be fair, we paused a couple times. We had, I think, 2 rate hikes this year, I want to say. So I wasn't wrong, but I wasn't right either. So we'll keep it that way. In December, do we have a hike? That depends on a lot of factors. So I can't make a call on that. The expectation is that there isn't. There's about a 20% chance that they will. The only reason I say otherwise is the fact, does inflation tick up? That's really the only issue. So the CPI number will be very important coming up in December. Always something to look forward to in the market, especially in macro. Crude oil up about a quarter point, 80.64, $2.18 for gasoline futures this morning. Silver futures 23.12, with gold futures at 19.97. Copper futures at $3.67. That's up as well. Euro dollar 106.59. The dollar yen is back to 150. I'm gonna watch that very closely as well. Dollar Canadian dollar 137.88. That's down 64 pips. So the dollar is down this morning. Let's take a quick look at it. The dollar is down nearly 1%, 105.88. That's the assumption of a rate pause. None in December is the expectation. 16.23 on the VIX. We are below 20 again. 379 to the downside in terms of percentage. Pound dollar up 58 pips. 122.09. The BOE pauses. No rate hikes for the Bank of England. Bitcoin futures 35,680. I placed a note on the blog in regards to Bitcoin. I want to read it to you guys so you guys know. If you've been part of the morning note, you guys know what I've been saying about 35. 35 is the key. This is what I wrote on the blog. Again, this is free for all. If you're interested, make sure to take a look at the description below. Good morning, Jay. Next target of Bitcoin is 40,000 for continued upside. We can play coin. If you want to trade options, coin, Riot, Mara. Those are your 3 horses that you want to keep an eye on. If you want to trade futures, stick with the micros, /MBT. The margin on that is 1,237 per contract, or you can buy and hold Bitcoin as you like. You can go long and just have 35,000 as, I guess, your stop. I would say, if anything, maybe right around 34, 33. If you kind of want to widen that stop in terms of you just want to buy Bitcoin today, looking for that 40,000, that's about a $5,000 move. Again, that's the expectation. Really, what I have on the future side is 39,955. The problem is that we are a little overbought, as we could see. Doesn't matter. Bitcoin is now at 35. 660. This is a pullback slightly of the last quote that I posted. So we're going to keep an eye on Mara. We're going to keep an eye on Riot. We're going to keep an eye on Coin moving forward on our watch lists. If there's anything worth playing, I do have some alerts up. Micro Bitcoin, we didn't trade. We traded NASDAQ long. I was conservative on that. That's my fault because yesterday morning I was short NASDAQ futures. And we were right at the 50 on the 50 MA on the hourly, up 35 points. I did not take it, unfortunately. What happened? We reversed, especially on the Fed day. Hasn't happened lately. So we went ahead and went long again. We were up about, I want to say 60 or 70 points, I would say. Let's take a look at it. Think how much did we lock in? We closed for 60. So well done on that end. I held for a little bit. I finally just closed. I'm so pissed off that I didn't. I was just thinking about you guys. That's kind of the deal. This business is hard enough to do it on your own. But when you're thinking about clients and you're thinking about what others are doing with their money, obviously you're trying to help out. You're trying to give all the tips you can. The idea is, you kind of want to just look out for them. And that's the idea. I just don't want to throw things on board, see what sticks, or just send signals out and not follow up and not care and do whatever you want. That's not what you guys pay for. That's not why you're here. You guys actually want guidance, which is the key. So again, a little conservative, damned if you do, damned if you don't. That happens. We'll talk about that on the futures video with Nick. But as of right now, in terms of options, we do have Microsoft open. I got back into Microsoft with the team. I got into the 355 calls. I broke it down very simply on the watch list and charts. We caught Microsoft yesterday. If you guys remember, we've been talking about that all week. That was not difficult. To trade. Actually, it was difficult to trade. Excuse me, because last week everyone was facing death. Microsoft was the only one that was literally outperforming. And again, the thesis was that if we started to get a bounce, Microsoft would outperform, and it did. It was a great setup on a technical basis, a breakout. So again, I broke it down this way yesterday. I said, guys, I placed an alert on Amazon. That was at 3 o'clock yesterday. I also put an eye on the Microsoft as well. So I had an alert, finally broke. And I gave everyone kind of three options looking for next week. The highest price, lowest risk would be the 350 calls. Again, I believe those they're nearly in the money now. The midpoint in terms of price and risk, again, we're always trying to find value. The 355 calls for next week. That's the one we chose, more of a balanced approach. And then if you kind of want the higher risk, higher volume at the lowest price, but it's very outside OTM, out of the money, is a 360 call. So again, the best analogy I use really is sports betting in a sense, or sports handicapping. Let's say the Kansas City Chiefs playing the Denver Broncos, right? Again, it's easy to say that Kansas City is going to win beforehand, right? We know the streaks for Patrick Mahomes, how great he is. We know that. Denver, not a great team. So again, what does the market makers in the books do? They change the odds, of course, that you need to put more money in or pay more to get the payout of something that is more likely going to happen. Very similar to insurance. Again, you have to pay higher premiums depending on where you live. If you live in an area that has, high car theft rates, let's say like in the cities, that's insurance goes higher because more likely you're going to have a claim. The more likely that insurance is going to have to pay out. Same thing with the market. If you get something that's more likely going to happen, let's say the 350 calls for next week, again, we're trading at 349. That's pretty much set in stone, granted any kind of reversal, but you price in the probability of that. That's how options are priced. So again, you also have, in this situation, you have three options to do it. Again, we have the direction. We know that Microsoft is going to go higher. We know that breakout. But again, it's not as just simple as Microsoft's going to go higher. Let's just go ahead and send something. You got to always weigh the risk and the cost. Microsoft is a little more expensive in terms of a signal than we have had lately, especially on the 350s. That would have been around $3.20. Again, we did the midpoint right at $1.80. Amazon we filled as well. I put that chart up at 118. We got some headlines on Amazon today in terms of buy now, pay later with Affirm. It hit session highs of around 138.91. So that's one to give you guys a heads up there. If you are on the server today and you have Microsoft and Amazon, you know the drill. We'll take it at the open. We'll let the runners do the rest for us, make us a little money. I still got that runner from the Microsoft 345s, guys. and that's in the money as well. So excellent stuff. I also gave everyone an option yesterday for those, like always thinking about you guys. 20% was at 3:54 p.m. yesterday, 6 minutes before close. I said, if you guys want to take the snack, you can take it here, but we have time until next week. Famous last words, right? That's happened to us before where we flip the next week. Just want to give you guys the option before we close. Now we break out, we soar. It's back and forth, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Not an easy gig to do, but that's the reality of day trading. It is not easy. You have to have, risk management mixed with pure poise and precision. And, you are what you are. And if you get it wrong, you get it wrong. If you get it right, the rewards are phenomenal. That's just what it is. So I just wanted to give you guys that heads up. Good morning, good morning. Let's go ahead and take a look at Palantir this morning. We definitely had some earnings, tons of them today. All right, Palantir broke my alert of 17.19. My next target is 18.44 with more upside to 23.94. Yes, I do love me some Palantir. There is a gap to fill at 23.94. In order to get there, we got to break above 20. So we have two options, guys. I would not trade for this week. I would look for next week, obviously. So let's just start with that. I'm not filling for this week. 17.19, just kind of hold above there. You got two options. You can wait for 18.44. That would confirm the break. The problem is that if you get that today, those premiums would be absolutely juiced, meaning the cost of the premiums will go a lot higher. So what we want is right here, everyone to get out of their calls, if anyone has calls on Palantir, so we can get a pullback, see if we retest 17.25, hold that, and then we can see if we can go to the 18s or the 1850s, or again, we can just wait in general, wait for the clean breakout of 18.44, and then we can target the 20 calls for next week. So there, like we said, there's different ways to kind of do this. The one that it's preference to me, I would say that 17.19 ain't bad, because I can target that 1850 level, 1844, 1850 zone. I think we're going to get there anyways. So again, we know seasonality. I know. Carlos, you keep telling me seasonality. My God, what is this crap about seasonality? You're always telling me that we're going to go up on a pre-election year. We're going down in an election year. Let me go ahead and show you guys one more time to reiterate the fact. Again, we've been talking about this all year. Don't forget. All right, here is our pre-election seasonality. November, ugly. We said this in July that the market is going to be ugly in October, and it happened. We got a nice boost. Again, November, we're going to get a little bit. Maybe after Thanksgiving, we get a little bit of a pullback. December looks like it's going to run. So all we're doing here is we're seeing some bounces. We're starting to see that seasonality. November is very strong. There hasn't been a time in the S&P where November was down this much, and November and December were also red. So higher likely possibility is that November will be a green month. Now that's easy to say, but how do we trade that? That's going to be crucial. So let's take a look at the S&P now. We are now above the 200-day. Does that mean bullish? Well, let's take a look. A couple things in terms of scenarios, and I'll give you my first scenario. This is the one I feel is the more likely one. We're going to have Apple today. I hate the fact that it's being run up into earnings. Now I think it's going to reverse. And watch me be wrong, and it soars. So I think it's going to pull back just for this run up into the print. I don't think they're going to have an amazing or impeccable earnings report. They don't even offer guidance usually, Apple. So I temper expectations there. I think that we do roll over. I would not trade that. Obviously not earnings for tomorrow. But taking a look at the S&P, we're right at the 20-day. 43.09, we talked about that in the weekend video. 43.09, I start getting interested again. Fine. But what I would want is that we reject the 20-day. That would be technically fine. And see if we can retest 4,200, 41.55. That's where I would want to see if the bulls or the buyers can defend this level. If we can, and we can bounce again, then I would say it's done is done. But if we start breaking a little higher, where are we going? 43.09 breaks. We got until 43.70 as our next support, our next resistance, and that's back to this upward trend line and recapturing it, which can definitely happen because we've seen many stocks do that. So we have a couple of scenarios here. You got one way to look at it, 43.09, 43.20 being your stop. You can use the 20-day as a short position. You play down to 42.50, 4,200 for a retest, or break above 43.20. 4309 or so, the zone, and you can target the trend line 4375 to 44,000 for continuation. And again, it's all dependent on really the earnings today that we're going to have with Apple, and obviously the dollar being absolutely obliterated this morning, which is a really good sign, showing a little bit of dovishness, I guess, expectations for December. But again, I was trading back in 2018, and there was no assumption that the Fed would raise rates, and they did. That was on Christmas of near Christmas of 2018. Very ugly price action. That's when we fell to around, I want to say 2,300 S&P. Very tough time. Look how far we've come from there with all this volatility and all these news. And that's about 2,000 points later from 2018. Thoughts on Airbnb? Let's take a look at it. I assume it is up this morning. Yes, it is. Let's go and chart it. I think I did see earnings. I did not read the call. Let's see if I can get details on it. On Airbnb. Let's see what their guide was and all that good stuff. Roku was up. Here we go. Revenue was a range. They beat in the top, but their guidance was, their guidance was soft. Let's see, fourth quarter revenue. Yep, that's really it, guys. It's really just the forecasting. So you have to look at it two ways. Are they just being conservative, which is completely fair and completely fine? Or there's something really bad happening. Oh, the expectation is that no more traveling. People are not going to use Airbnb anymore. If I could be completely honest, I'm not a huge fan of Airbnb. I prefer hotels myself. Those fees got to change, I assume. But again, that's going to hit their margins. So a tough one here. I mean, if you want to trade it, fine. Is it the future of hotels? Possibly. But again, I don't want to just base the stock performance on what I like and don't like in terms of traveling. You just can't be just purely based on preference. We kind of have to look at things unbiasedly as well. So if we go to the weekly, here's what you're looking at. We're trying to get above 130, 139. Again, that's pretty much near the 20-week moving average. If you break above that, then you could target 150 to 155. Really, that's it. That's the zone that you need to get out of. That gets us back to April 22 levels. If you remember that big pullback and drawdown we had in 2022, gets you to around those levels, and then you can start taking a look at 200 or so as a possibility. But we need a lot of things to go right, guys. And understand, when it comes to these names that have been hammered, absolutely hammered in the market, when you get a big boost in terms of earnings, it could be one or two things. Someone who's finally getting out at a nice boost and they just want to cut their losses, that's when you get a pullback. Or sometimes you get people who are literally natural buyers that are just looking to add more. Finally, the worst is over. It is our jobs to kind of weed through all that, read through the mud and see, what's the actual sentiment out there. Is this natural buying? Is this buy the dip? Are we done? I mean, both arguments can be true. You can have short covering, retest 4,200. That's fine. And could we have, continuation to the upside with seasonality? Absolutely. I don't think anything has been missed in terms of opportunities out there, just for the simple fact that just because these daily candles look this great, it has been an absolute grind. I had Microsoft calls last week in the face of death, in the face of Red Sea, and we're finally coming around and getting it. So again, that theta matters, the timing matters, the actual demand matters. So it's not as simple as the market's going to go up, press the button up. It doesn't work like that. We got to find tactically, what are the targets? What's the possible pullback? Does the macro line up? Yes, after the fact, after a Fed where we're usually getting a pullback when Powell speaks, yeah, going up is a nice change, definitely. Any thoughts on Tesla? Nice pullback on Tesla as well, back above 200. Remember we talked about that death gap down at 146.53 if it got away from us. But 193.34, that's pretty much your level of support. That's the most recent lows. If we take a look at that, that's also the breakout from May. Very similar to the S&P or that 50% retrace where we just kind of retested. Gotta get above 213.22. If we do, then we can play longs. We got some gaps to fill to the upside. Very, very exciting stuff. Got to get me at least above the 200-day here on Tesla before we get too excited. Remember, that earnings call was not the best. Tesla's very commoditized in the market. So again, it's more of a commodity in terms of a stock than it is the actual company health itself. So remember that when you're being an investor, and that helps both ways. You know, Tesla is extremely overvalued versus other car companies if you price it as a car company, but as a tech company, seems just about right in terms of valuation and forward earnings. So you kind of have to look at that prism in terms of Tesla. Tesla has been absolutely amazing to us in terms of options trading. Lately, we've been on fire. So again, no issues here. But we gotta be very careful on what Tesla may do. Again, maybe we could retest that low. But again, could this all be a short squeeze or is this a natural bottom? That's the question that we're seeing. That's the question we have to answer. We have Apple today after the actual session is over, excuse me. And then we have non-farm payroll report tomorrow. Pretty important stuff. Here was a breakdown of kind of what the expectation was or what we were looking for kind of in terms of the macro. I sent this on the blog yesterday at 11:51. I said we're right at the 50% fib level. That could be the bottom. It's all dependent on the Fed. They cannot hike today or give any hints of a hike in December. So they didn't hike yesterday. Good. Did they give any hints of a hike in December? That depends on the perception. He did mention that, you know, hey, we at the FOMC are looking at different angles. If the data is data dependent, it's live. But yet the market's bounced. Apple earnings is today, largest part of the S&P. It's very consumer focused, as we know. What's the guidance going to be? They usually don't give any. Maybe they do. Remember, holiday season is coming. Do they offer any buybacks? That's the big one to me. Non-farm payroll on Friday, the jobs report. You can't have a crazy number, guys. You can't have 400,000 new jobs added. And we've had that before. The problem is that when we get those jobs added, there's always revisions to the downside or to the upside. So it just really depends. You know, we get that, what we call a flash number. So that has to be revised the next month as they get the actual count. That creates wage pressure if we have too high of a volume in terms of new jobs added. Again, great for an economy, not great for a stock market that's worried about inflation. That creates wage pressure upward, which increases prices, inflation. The expectation is 185,000 jobs added, which is really great. But again, we want to keep that in line. We want to be lower than that or right there. So we are just in an overdue, oversold bounce until we can close above 43.11. That's when it gets interesting with November, December seasonality. Again, I talked about this back then. Again, we do have a gap to fill up above on SPX. That's on the daily, but this is a weekly chart just to kind of give everyone a heads up. We see 42.91 now, kind of slowing a little bit. We'll see if we get a little bit of a pullback back to the 200-day. So not all is clear, I must say. Heck of a bounce, obviously. You know, we traded it. That's all we can say. SPY, let's see. Oh, running a little late, so let's finish up these questions. Sorry, I've been going on and on and on. All right, let's take a look at SPY. We are now above the 200-day. We are now above the 20. So you need to stay above here. If you can stay and close above 425.83, the problem is that you have Apple and you have NFP. 430 is your next target on SPY for more upside. In terms of support, it's got to be the 200-day right around 423. So depending on where we open today, 426.45, 430 might be the next target. But again, we need continuation. Thoughts on NVIDIA? All right, here we go. NVIDIA, I had the alert at 391.93. I even talked about a head and shoulders pattern, and boy, did we bounce right there. So technically speaking, is there anything great about it here? Man, AMD really helped the cause here, right under the 20-day. You got to break above these moving averages, and when you do have a slight gap to fill at 450. So if we can break above 435, maybe we could take a look at the 450s for next week. If we get continuation, I'll place the alert. Got a slight gap right here, 448, 449 range. So there we are, guys. Have a great rest of your morning. I will see you guys on the actual blog on the Discord. If you're interested in joining, it is free. Take a look at the description below. Would love to have you on board. Have a good one, guys. We will see you there. Cheers.